How much of our lives is public? Is there someone out there, someone we don't know, who knows everything about us? Could there be someone impersonating us, maybe even perfectly, easily mistaken for the real thing? Is someone watching me? What kind of people does my online persona attract? Don't people know that's not actually me, but just a facade? Or is it me? Who am I? These are the questions that fill the mind of anyone who makes online content in 2021. Yet Satoshi Kon asked these very same questions all the way back in 1997 with his debut feature film, Perfect Blue, a film that gains relevance with each passing day, because with each day, we descend further and further into a digital nightmare. Perfect Blue is a psychological thriller that follows a pop star, Mima, who changes her career to follow her dream of becoming an actress. She works hard to break out of the pop idol mold by accepting risque jobs, divorcing herself from her previous virginal public persona, which only angers her obsessive fans, causing them to harass her online and finally, in real life.
Perfect Blue was my introduction to anime. Some friends of mine took me to the cinema a few years ago to watch this film on the big screen. I was blown away by how mature it was and how it didn't feel like a stereotypical anime movie. It was like I was watching a Japanese Brian De Palma film, and I loved it. And there's a good reason for this. It wasn't intended to be an anime. Satoshi Kon originally intended to shoot Perfect Blue as a live-action film, and he had the money for it. Until he didn't.
On January 17, 1995, the Kobe earthquake devastated the Hanshin region of Japan. Over 6,000 people lost their lives as a result of this natural disaster, and 20% of the buildings in the worst-hit areas were completely demolished. This earthquake also greatly damaged the production studio in which Kon was set to film his movie. Because of the excess damages, the budget for the film was cut, and the only way he could make the film would be as an animation. And so, Perfect Blue became a shining example of complex storytelling in animated media, standing alongside Akira and Ghost in the Shell as anime classics. Perfect Blue deals with the real and the unreal. The film sets up alternate realities to contrast with real life, those being television, the internet, and celebrity. These different realities create parallel stories within the film, and the movie treats them all with equal weight and gravitas, so that the final product, the finished movie, is a hybrid of reality and unreality as seen mostly by the perspective of Mima. Whether or not something is true or untrue in the film, it's part of her perceived reality. It's a classic case of an unreliable narrator or narrators. And these opposing forces, the television series, the stalker, and her celebrity persona, crush her psyche until she breaks. Let's look at the film within the film. Mima's agent lands her a small role in a crime drama series, but as the show progresses, her role expands. Under one condition. She must act in sex scenes, graphic scenes of rape. She thinks that since it's just a movie, it'll be okay, but she's dead wrong. In the series within the film, the rape scene marks a turning point for Mima's character, causing her to have a mental breakdown and become a killer. It serves the same purpose in Perfect Blue, as by this point, Mima finds it hard to distinguish between the movie and her real life. Kon portrays the scene in graphic detail, making it feel all too real for the viewer, only to pull us out of the scene with the director yelling, "Cut." Her inability to distinguish between her actual life and the show results in her giving great realistic performances, no doubt cementing her as a future star actress, but it comes at the price of her own sanity and her previous fanbase. With the sex scene and the nude photo shoot, Mima destroys her public image of chastity, enraging her agent and Uchida. For people who aren't that familiar with idol culture in Japan, this is huge. Most idols don't date or get into any romantic relationships, at least publicly, during their idol career, because if they do, their fans will feel betrayed and might very seriously turn on them. You see, when they're an idol, they're not a person, but a fantasy. For example, with women idols, men need to be able to imagine themselves in a relationship with them. So if it comes out that they're sleeping with someone, well, that's tantamount to adultery in some of their eyes. and it's taken very seriously by all parties involved. In 2013, Minami Minagishi shaved her head as part of an apology. What was she apologizing for? Well, she got caught spending a night with her boyfriend. In her apology, she stated,
"I don't believe just doing this means I can be forgiven for what I did, but the first thing I thought was that I don't want to quit AKB48.
We in the West might think of this as absurd, but this is the reality for many pop idols in the East. Mima is not just a fantasy for Uchida, her stalker and #1 simp, but she is the perfect fantasy. Kon tells us all of this in one shot in which we look through Uchida's eyes. He's got his hand situated in such a way so that it looks like he's holding Mima in the palm of his hand. She's all his, no one else's, just this little doll with which to play. It's because he sees her this way that he can't accept the fact that the Mima who bears her entire body for a magazine is the same Mima from the pop group Cham. It can't be her. She would never do something like that. She has to be an imposter. And so, an anonymous person claiming to be the real Mima online lures him in and convinces him to do their bidding. This person is definitely the real Mima, right? They know everything she does during the day. What kind of groceries she buys, how she feels, the fact that she stepped off the subway left foot first, logging everything onto a blog.
It's not like people can just go on the internet and tell lies.
This is where her persona and the internet collide. This other version of Mima is some weird rendition of her pop idol persona, consoling fans that all is fine and that her values haven't changed, while also attempting to sabotage the real Mima's life, killing people who are responsible for her new direction while gaslighting Mima the entire time. This person doesn't just kill people, they take out their eyes, blinding them and killing them. I mean, I guess you don't need eyes to see if you're dead, but what I'm getting at is that the method of the murders points to an attack on perception. It's an attack on what is seen to be real life, maybe because the murderer's perceived reality is a delusion that doesn't mesh with the real world. A delusion that no one else shares. Of course, the person imitating Mima is none other than her agent Rumi, a former pop idol who is way past her prime. She lives vicariously through Mima, reliving her glory days on the stage when Mima sings, and Mima's pivot into acting upsets her because it puts an end to her delusion. Both Uchida and Rumi use Mima as vehicles for their own fantasies, albeit in different ways. And with Rumi living her life through Mima, it makes sense that both fall into an identity crisis. Rumi believes herself to be the true Mima, while Mima wonders if she's having a psychotic break, with her past persona breaking through and possessing her. Kon blurs the lines between their identities and their realities with his snappy editing style that transports us from the TV series to real life and through their different states of mind, which reminded me of David Lynch's film Inland Empire.
Just as Rumi messes, intentionally or not, with Mima's mental state to make her feel like she's going crazy, Kon messes with ours. It's a film that should be felt before it's intellectually understood, but there are indicators that allow us to have a grasp on what exactly is going on.
Let's start with mirrors and windows. Kon uses reflections in the film to illustrate the parallel versions of reality in this movie. Mima sees herself and her pop idol self in the reflections of windows. When Mima first discovers Mima's room, we see her in the foreground and a mirror in the background. The mirror is slanted, askew, reflecting Mima's back. It points to the existence of a duplicate, yet distorted, Mima. When Rumi chases Mima near the end of the film, we see Rumi for who she thinks she is, which is Mima, but in the reflections of the windows and mirrors, we see Rumi for who she actually is. Kon uses these reflections to simultaneously display the real and the unreal, fantasy and reality, dreams and waking life. It's fitting, poetic even, that the shattered glass that displays reality to Rumi is what almost kills her. She runs from the piercing reality to the embrace of the truck's lights, which appear to her as stage lights. She'll embrace her delusion to her own demise. And speaking of lights, let's go back to the, how shall we call it, gang violation scene. I noticed something interesting about this scene. She's on a stage, much like when she was a pop idol, but the spotlight isn't from above, but from below. It's the inversion, the dark reflection of her pop idol presence. But are the two actually that dissimilar? I don't think so. There's definitely an air of wholesomeness to her pop persona, but the men who watch her, who are obsessed with her, want to do the same thing to her as the rabid men in the strip club. We know this because Uchida, Mr. Me-Mania, attempts to have his way with her later in the film in a scene that calls back to the staged rape scene. During this all-too-real traumatic event, Mima imagines a movie set as a coping mechanism. Up until this point, her real life bled into her acting and filmmaking, but now, the opposite occurs. Speaking of bleeding, while we're on the subject of blood, the color red is everywhere in this film. Mima's apartment is red, her car is red, everything associated with her is red. I think the Khan attached the color red to the present Mima and white to the past Mima. Red causes ideas of passion, violence, warmth, and sexuality to come to mind. White, on the other hand, corresponds to virtue, purity, and chastity. With these two colors linking to Mima's person and persona, it's fitting that Rumi's outfit at the end, when she assumes the identity of Mima, is a red dress with white stockings. Let's look at the scene in which Mima first discovers the website, Mima's Room. It encapsulates the feeling of discovering that you're being cyberstalked so perfectly. Mima displays an intense curiosity for what's on the site, but we can feel the paranoia boiling over inside of her. Just to think that there's someone out there who is watching your every move and documenting it for the world to see is terrifying. I got a taste of this recently when Amanda, Nexpo Stalker, added me to her list after Night Dogs collaborated with me on an April Fool's video. I caught myself scrolling through all of her tweets, reading every awful thing she said about me, wondering how somebody who I don't even know could say all these terrible, terrible things about me. Thankfully for me though, it didn't get any farther than some crazy tweets. After my initial shock, I could just block and ignore.
But that's not the case for everyone. Just as the cyberstalking moves off the screen and into real life in Perfect Blue, many cases of cyberstalking become all too tangible and horrifyingly violent in real life.
In Japan, Tomohiro Iwazaki stabbed singer Mayu Tomita 34 times, almost killing her, after developing a toxic one-way parasocial relationship with her online. He followed everything she did on social media. He sent her countless love messages, all ignored. And so, the love turned to hate, and Iwazaki's death threats on social media transformed into attempted murder. In the US, just a few years ago, Kevin Loibl shot and killed YouTuber and pop singer Christina Grimmie before shooting himself. Like Iwazaki, he convinced himself that he was in love with her, but this wasn't love, but rather a dark obsession. Watching videos of Grimmie day in and day out, developing a perceived reality in which she was the one true love of his life. As we know, his obsession led to a tragic and blood-curdling end.
These aren't isolated incidents. As the internet brings everyone together, it also invites a certain danger into our lives. Parasocial relationships between a celebrity and their fan can be fun, but it can be like playing with fire. Online creators fuel these relationships because that's how we build an audience. YouTubers interact in the comment section and streamers read off from the chat. It makes many online creators likable, approachable, and relatable. And though interaction of this nature might be benign, it still opens a window for some people to take things too far. Though a parasocial relationship might exist between a celebrity online and one of their fans, it's not like either of them know each other. The fan knows the celebrity by their outward persona, and the celebrity knows the fan as just a number or a username. It's not real, but it can feel real. I think the most egregious example of this at the moment, right now, is OnlyFans, a site where men and women, but most notably women, not only sell their lewd and nude photographs online, but they sell the girlfriend experience. Their subscribers pay a monthly fee to get intimate access to their lives, or if they wish to talk to them, they can pay extra. Or maybe they can buy them a gift off their Amazon wish list, and in return, the creator might do a little something special for them. It's simulating a relationship, but whereas the subscriber might see the creator as a sort of virtual partner, the creator sees the subscriber as a money bag. My friend Glink made a great video on this that I advise you all to go check out.
I can't help but think that many online creators, especially some people on OnlyFans, are potentially fostering dangerous conditions for themselves for short-term profit because while they might have millions of well-adjusted and normal fans who just like what they do and want to support their work, well, it only takes one person to pull the trigger.
To think that Perfect Blue expressed this very modern anxiety over 20 years ago. Satoshi Kon foresaw that one of the adverse effects of the internet would be the heightening of toxic fan culture and thus celebrity stalking. In reality, with the internet, we all lose our sense of privacy, for better or for worse.
Usually worse. Sadly, Satoshi Kon died in 2010 as a result of pancreatic cancer. He was only 46. If he were alive today, I wonder what he would have to say about the state of the internet. I can't imagine that he would be too happy about his rather grim predictions coming true. Would he tell us, "I told you so"? I guess we'll never know.
だから不思議だなと思っていられるうちが手品を楽しめるうちなんですからあまりにも分解しすぎると、楽しめなくなってしまうと。
There's one last message that I have for everyone in this video, and that's leave me alone.